And we're back. Welcome, everybody. We have a very special episode, a Sunday special. I normally don't do Sunday specials, but me and Mark have been trying to arrange a time together because there's a big time difference. So we were able to, normally we don't do Sundays, but for special guests, we make exceptions. We have a very special guest. He is the author of The Second Crypto Revolution, Building Generational Wealth. Generational wealth. That is not a word they use lightly with the Richard Hart ecosystem. Mark Wilde, welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone, and hey, Furu, thank you very much for having me for that Sunday special, as you mentioned. I think there's like 12 or 13 hours now of difference between us, so we've been going at it for a few weeks, trying to fit the timing to make sure that I wake up and Furu has time, right? So basically, we did it. I'm here, so it's 6:27 in the morning in Bangkok on Monday. I'm in Bangkok, Thailand. So it reminds me of not so good old days of waking up to work every day. So let's start here.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll get that means you have a long day ahead of you, and I guess hopefully we can make it productive. But I guess let's just get started by telling us who you are and about yourself, and then you can maybe tie that into how you got to Hex and Pulsechain, and then we're going to get to the book, and then we're going to get deep into the book. But we have a big giveaway. Mark was kind enough to be giving away. He's airdropping to 3 lucky winners in the chat a free book of the Second Crypto Revolution. So let's just start with your story. Tell us your story.
Sure. So originally I come from Warsaw in Poland, Europe, for some of you. I spent there the first 20 years of my life. I come from my father used to be a taxi driver. My mother used to help her mother, which was, of course, my grandmother, to run a fairly small vegetable fruits shop in the city, in one of the city districts. We were doing pretty well for giving the condition of the country post-communism in the 1990s. It was going fairly well until Poland started to get sucked into a more globalized world, and all this like small shops which my part of my family were running, they were taken over by the big supermarkets emerging on different corners and so on. So we kind of had to come up with some other plan. And this is when it was actually initiative of my mother who decided, or she actually planned we should leave the country, we should go somewhere else, we should see how it goes. Initial ideas, mostly due to lack of knowledge and research, I guess, was a typical Polish dream back then. So let's see what happens. Obviously, that will be illegal because it was not really easy to find a job. To get a visa or any sort of permit to be there legally. And so it happened that that was like early 2000s, and I was studying back then. I was studying international relations, and because of that and interest in the subject, I kind of discovered, if you can call it like this, that we would be able to legally work pretty much anywhere in the European Union, starting from 2004. And so we start to do more research into that. So obviously, legal is better than illegal, and it's closer to home in a way. It doesn't matter where we go; it would be just a few hours flight from Poland. So we came up with an idea. Well, my mother came up with an idea first. Let's go to Sweden, but then we changed our mind and we ended up in Ireland. So. First, my mother, father, and my sister, they relocated to Dublin in 2004. I came there. I went for
Looks like you're cutting out a little bit. You cut out a little bit.
Okay. Is it better now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So I followed my family to Ireland in 2006 after I finished college. It took me about 3 years there to realize it's too cold, too windy, too rainy over there for me. I just can't handle the weather. I can handle every and I took a big leap of faith, and I booked a one-way ticket to Asia in 2009, and I was doing different things in Asia, mostly tourism, right? So I started trying to put some tours together, and then before I knew it, I worked for different companies, for hotels, for travel agencies, for operators of river cruises all over Southeast Asia. Took me about 10 years, I think, and that brings us to around 2020. Right. So, I was in crypto since 2017. That's when I kind of discovered it, started to play with it. Not big numbers, nothing really significant. I'd say I just try to discover how it all works. What can we do about it? And it was more kind of like a side thing because I was still fairly busy with everything else I was doing. Obviously, I kind of got burnt in 2017, 2018 because I put some money in, then I didn't sell the top because I had no idea what's going on around me. Then I just kept it for additional 2 years or so without really. I didn't want to sell it at a loss. In the same time, I was not putting more into it. I was just like, well, if it comes back one day, that's great. And if it doesn't, then whatever. I spent that time researching a little bit, trying to learn more about all of these things, mostly reading whatever I could find for the next 2-3 years. And that brings us to early 2020.
Wait, but so what cryptos were you in?
Well, I started as a standard, I'd say. I bought some Bitcoin. I bought some. Then I had a number of others, including Litecoin, Icon, ICX. From what I remember, I got into EOS. I had maybe 10 or 12 different ones at different times, I would say, right? So most of them, as we know, never got up from that lows, I'd say, or maybe they reached somewhere close to all-time highs in 2021, and then went down again. So even if I held them that long and sold in 2021, that would still be pretty much the same amount of money I could get in 2017, 18, right? So it's not like you really made a profit by holding 3 or 4 years. It's just like, you're in the same position you were before, right? So it doesn't really matter. So a friend of mine in the beginning of 2020, he started to talk about Richard Hart, about Hex. And I must admit, my first reaction was like, I dismissed that. I didn't even take a look, to be honest. It was kind of like, well, we talked crypto with that friend for quite a few years. And, sometimes he was coming up with different ideas, showing like, oh, look, I found this project, or I found that project. I bought some of this. I didn't buy others. But, it was just like yet another name on the list. So it was kind of like, oh, look at this. And I was busy with work. So I was kind of like, well, yeah, okay. Yeah. One day I look, that's fine. I'm glad that you believe it. It's cool. But, I don't even have time to look at this. Right. And then my situation slightly changed because, I quit one job in February 2020 because I signed a contract for another one. And a month later, all the pandemic started with full speed, which pretty much left me in a situation where I kind of felt that my new contract might not work out because, you could see just what's going on around. People, well, the governments are closing the countries, the visas are not being issued, travel is being restricted. And I'm in tourism industry, right? It's kind of like, well, it would be silly not to assume things might go wrong from here. So this is when I think that was March 2020, and then my friend again mentioned Richard Hart. I was like, okay, now I have time. right now I can take a look what's going on. So I went to the Hex website back then. I think that was hexwin.com or something like that, or hex.win. I don't remember. We didn't have a hex.com domain. I read everything which was there, and I think there was a section with links to some videos by Richard Hart with his YouTube channel to particular videos about particular crypto subjects and about Hex, of course. I think all in all, that was maybe like 30 hours of content or something like this. And I remember I just watched it all in 2 days or 3 days because I had nothing really else to do. And I like what I saw. I was like, I was captivated immediately in a way by it. Just all made sense. There was no fluffing there around, around the subjects and kind of like, oh, I'm building this and, let's all be rich together because one day it will be done. I think what caught my attention right away was like, it's already done. It's there. It's working, and these are the rules. And you either play the game yourself or you don't, but, it's already there. And of course, I was skeptical, like many others in the beginning. I didn't really understand anything about smart contracts and audits and, immutability of a code and so on. That was just not my area. It's still not. But I took an effort to try to understand that, right? So I was reading everything I could. I was listening to everything I could. I think there was 10 or 15 times when I read that document, which was considered the Hex white paper, right? So that was what was it called? It was Hex in layman terms or something like that. So the smart contract was explained in a language which most people should be able to comprehend. What are we actually talking about? But even though I was doing this research, I jumped in almost immediately back then. It was kind of like, well, after I spent 2-3 days researching, after I spent this 2 days watching of, 15 to 20 hours of Richard Hart, I was like, okay, fine, I'm just putting my money in. And I took all this crypto, which I mentioned before, all the Bitcoin I had, not all of the Ether, but some of it, and everything else, Litecoin and, EOS and XRP and you name it. And I just swapped it. I swapped it for Hex. I was like, let's see what happens here. Because, well, if you were looking at the rest of my portfolio, not doing anything pretty much for the last 3 years, then, my thinking was like, look, if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, the others probably are not work out either. So I didn't see much. And then, as we all know, it started to work, right? I mean, I think I jumped in just before Godwell appeared for the first time by doubling the price of Hex in one candle in March or early April, something like that. And the price never went below that level before, right? Again, right? So, the rest of the story is on the chart pretty much.
So what was the price?
So yeah. You know what? I don't actually remember, but that was, I think it was a fraction of a penny back then, right? It wasn't as good as all the people who jumped in January or February, but it was still very, very good. So no complaints here for sure. So that brings me pretty much to the moment I got into Hex, but I'll let you take over from here because I could keep going as a lecture, but that's not the point here, right? So.
No, it's a very interesting story how you got there. I guess what was it about Hex that you liked that you didn't like about any other ones? Was it just your friend, or was it Richard's personality, or was it the game theory in particular?
I think, to be completely honest, I think if it wasn't from my friends, I probably wouldn't have discovered it so early. If I ever would have discovered it, is a question. It's an open question. I don't know what would have happened, right? If not for my friend. But then I think I invested in the man. I'd say what captivated me the most was Richard Hart's personality back then, and just that he seemed to be so dedicated and so honest and so open in a way, right? It was like these very first messages which I got were sort of like, well, look, this is what it is, this is what I'm doing, or this is what I did, this is what I believe, and this is why everything else is crap. And some of it I understood already by my previous exposure to crypto. Some of it I didn't. But I think I knew enough to kind of to buy the whole story. Where are we going with this, right? And I could have been wrong. I wasn't. So yeah, I think that was the first thing, and then the second thing, obviously, I had very limited knowledge of Hex when I was buying it, but then because I already had it and I was watching not only the chart but every piece of news which was coming about it, then I just was diving deeper and deeper, trying to understand more, to know more, and to to be able to actually know what I'm holding and what should I do with this. It was still a few months before the launch phase ended, a few months before the so-called big payday. So I think a few people which I knew are in Hex from my immediate circles, we were all trying to figure it out. Like one person discovered this thing, another person discovered something else. We were playing with staking, not understanding in the beginning, right? So first you stake it for a few days, see what happens, yeah, and then you kind of like, okay, I staked it, a little bit more came to my wallet. Then you play with it just to see if it's really how described, right? Pretty much, you see, okay, that's what's going to do. I'm like, okay, fine, let's put I don't know, $1,000 worth of Hex into it, see if it really works like that. Then it did. Then you start reading about the big payday and that you should be stayed during this time, and earlier is better, bigger is better, longer is better. So we kind of like step by step trying to put that capital to work and trying to find out what's the optimal strategy here, right? So that's how it's all started.
Yeah, that's very similar to me. Like when you first get in, you just learn a lot along the way, and then you kind of wish that you took the time to learn it earlier before like you staked it and everything. because but at the same time, like you may have not gotten in if you didn't have that feeling of FOMO, or where you were feeling like everyone was going to get rich, and you may, if you were like taking time to consider it. So I don't know. I guess it is what it is. But we're all here, and that's really the important part. What's going on in the chat? We got my view count isn't working for some reason. So I look here, it says 34 people right now. If you guys could just hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. What's going on? Dan Smith, Shimon, Anna Will. I'm allergic to snow also.
There's no snow in Ireland, but usually, but loads of rain. Like on average, 300 days of rain per year. And when it rains, it rains. It just rains all day. It's not like a strong downpour. It's more like drizzling all day. So yeah, not for me. I need sunshine, right? It doesn't have to be hot for me. It happens that it is in Thailand, hot all year round. Doesn't have to be, but I need my sunshine. I need my blue sky. So basically, that changes the mood of everything. So I feel you. I feel you.
We kind of didn't have too much snow in New York, but this past year, I don't know. It's we kind of skipped it. And
okay.
Chad Donner Schwans is here. To Schwans of House Donner's entered the chat. Thank you so much for tuning in, Chad. So I guess we can move here into the book. It's very interesting that you wrote a book, and I respect it a lot. Just knowing writing is definitely not something that's easy, let alone like writing an article or writing a newsletter, let alone a book. So I guess tell us about the book. Tell us about, first, before we get into the book, tell us what made you want to write the book.
Okay, so it kind of begins when I ended answering your last question, right? So after all the situation with pandemic starting, tourism industry going down the drain, and me wondering what to do after I bought Hex, I spent the next few months. I actually relocated back then from Cambodia to Mexico. The reason was that Mexico pretty much didn't shut down, right? So maybe for 3 months they kind of locked down more or less, and then they reopened saying, look, we can't afford it. Tourism is running, and since it's so close to you guys, a lot of American tourists were actually still coming down to Mexico. The ones who didn't care or whatever, who could do that, they were just like, yeah, let's go to Mexico, because that's one of a few countries where you guys could travel back then, which was not closed, and geographically, obviously, just next door to you. So and so I went there trying to find a job for another 4 or 5 months. And then that was around the end of 2020. Big payday happened, all the pump before big payday happened, and all the drop. And then we pumped again to, back then, I think that was what we finished the year, I think, at 2 cents. Then we dropped immediately. But that was roughly at that time when I realized, hey, maybe I will actually not need a full-time job anymore, at least not in a capacity of working for someone, right? You just, when I was buying Hex and I was talking to my friends, so 1 cent was a dream. It's like, well, if we ever do it, then we are golden. It would work. It's perfect. So obviously the price was, as I mentioned before, just a fraction of it. So that was a big ask, right? Like I don't remember exactly, but if you asked for 20x back then, and you've never seen a 20x in your life, then it's like, well, it's a sort of new product. A lot of people are talking bad things about it. So maybe, but so that was a dream. And then when it actually happened, when we reached 1 cent and above, then I was like, hey, maybe I should focus on something else. Maybe I shouldn't be looking for a job. And I took a risk here, okay, let's not look for a job without a big idea yet what I'm going to do, but let's not look for a job. Let's focus on something else. I came back from Mexico all the way to Asia. I moved to Thailand again. And then I don't know, I was just living my life for a few months, pretty much enjoying it and not thinking much about the future, just watching what's happening in the Hex community and how it's all going to play out. And this is where it was like mid 2000 when started to pump again and of around 50 cents, which only reaffirmed me that, well, yeah, I don't need a full-time job by now for sure. I can just do other things in my life. So, to be honest, my first reaction was probably a little bit of a sudden wealth syndrome. So, Thailand was closing down again because of COVID. I didn't have any of this. So I took my girlfriend and we just decided to go to Brazil because why not? I mean, we planned to go to Europe, but she didn't get a visa. Then we planned to actually go to Mexico, but she needed a visa for Mexico. And the embassy of Mexico in Thailand was closed. So we were kind of like, well, you know what, let's just go to Brazil because you don't need a visa and why not? So we went to Brazil, we went to Peru, we went to Paraguay, we went to a few other places, enjoying life even more than before. And then we came back to Thailand. The prices of Hex were still good, and obviously we started to go down after this around 50 cents all-time high. But I still was fine with it. I was still happy, whatever. And then it hit me, when we lived in Thailand, being like, okay, it was nice to have this, let's call it extended holidays, but it's kind of boring. It's like it was, let's call it a retirement or semi-retirement or just traveling the world, you name it. And after a while, it just, well, I'm not I've been doing something productive for my life, or at least.
Oh, Mark, you cut out a. Sorry, you cut out a little. You said came out of the semi-retirement.
Yeah.
You had the holiday, and then you cut out.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. So no worries. Thanks. So I realized that this being retired or semi-retired at the age of around 40. It gets boring very quickly for someone who is actually active, right? And I was active all my life. I was working, insane hours sometimes, and mostly for other people. And it's like after a year or so of that, it just feels like, well, where's my life going? I need to do something, and obviously I don't want to get a job. I was not really keen on initially. I was not keen on opening any business because I just could see how big potential was in hex and in crypto in general. And I kind of aligned with what Richard Hart was saying here, that you can't outrun crypto if you do it well. So basically the thinking was like, what, you take some profits from hex and you put it in the traditional business. Didn't make any sense as long as it's only money which is concerned, right? I mean, okay, if you do it for other reasons, then maybe it makes sense. But that's trying to diversify and thinking, my business, whatever I came up with, is going to do better than hex in a long term. Well, good luck. I will not take that risk. And that's how I came up with an idea. Look, I would like to give back to the community somehow, right? I saw the community is growing. It was always, I was kind of lurking in the shadows most of the time. I wasn't really active. I was reading a lot, following a lot of people, watching a lot of streams, but I never really took an active part in it for quite some time. And then I thought about, okay, so what could I do which aligns with what I like to do or with what I want to do, and in the same time it creates some value for the community. And it happens that I like to write, right? I wrote and published 3 books before under a different name. I was writing various articles, and I even worked as a freelance journalist for a while, for a few years back in Poland and a little bit in Southeast Asia. So I kind of combined these 2 things together, and I was like, well, how about writing a book about, initially I thought about hex, but then, all the story with Pulsechain started and Pulsex, and I was like, I tried to outrun the clock, and I was like, let's try to put the book about everything, hex, Pulsechain, and Pulsex, and hope I can have it published before we launch, before Pulsechain and Pulsex is launched. And obviously it was very big unknown last year, right? So like if we actually launched this initially, let's call it planned in May last year, I was still in the middle of writing, so that wouldn't have happened. But after that, we didn't really know. It's going to be June, July, August, or December. So it was kind of like I was rushing to have something out. The chapters about Pulsechain and Pulsex are written based on the testnet, of course, because we don't have anything else to summarize. So I thought, let's do this. So hopefully people who prefer to learn from reading, by reading, or people who don't have time to watch YouTubes for hours or don't know who to watch, on which ones to watch, they could have sort of like a short guide, a comprehensive A to Z. Okay, where do I start? What do I do? And how it's going to work, right? So that was my idea. The book is meant for total beginners, or someone who just maybe started to discover hex and would like to have sort of a guide what it actually is and how to start investing in it and how to play it, and also as long as our community as the hex community is concerned, or Pulsechain community, as an onboarding tool, right? Because I used to receive, and I still do, a lot of questions and from various people. As soon as you mention crypto in a random conversation, people start asking, and it's like, okay, so what do you have? And I have this, and never heard of this, or why you choose this one, and how do I start, and how do you buy it? And after a while, these questions get old as well, right? You kind of like keep answering the same questions, and like 99% of the people you actually help, spending some hours with them, they will still not make a move, right? They will ask you a lot of questions, take a lot of your time, and then get distracted by something else in life and not follow through. So then I was like, okay, if I have a tool myself which I could write, and someone asked me a question, I could just hand out the book and say, what, read this, and if you really want to go in and you still have questions or something is unclear in the book, let me know, and then I will answer all the questions, right? So that's my first response to the very basic questions, being like, well, okay, take this, see where it gets you, right? And if you follow through, if you actually read it, yeah, let's talk again. And if you need help, I will help you. Right?
So it's like it saves you a lot of time. It's just point at the book.
Definitely.
Instead of having to,
Yeah.
go through everything. And then if at that point, if they read through the entire book, the questions are probably a lot more substantive and, meaningful because they already have like some sort of idea of what's going on, kind of thing.
Pretty much, yeah. So I actually had quite a few chats or in-person conversations with people who actually read the book, and they were not exposed to crypto at all, so total newbies. And the feedback I got so far is that the book is good enough to guide you to by the hand, pretty much. So if you never read anything and you have to start with perhaps opening an account on a centralized exchange just to bring some money in, or maybe you will buy Hex some other way, they will know how to do it by just following the steps. But the questions are still happening, and they're still coming, and some of them are obviously detailed, more detailed than the book was able to explain, but it was not Hex specific. I can give you an example. There was a guy recently who sent me a message, and he said that he read the book and he really liked it, and he opened an account on the centralized exchange. He bought some Ether and he wants to send it to his wallet now. But then whatever exchange he opened it asked him some technical questions. I'm not sure if it was Ether actually, but it was asking. It couldn't have been Ether. It was something else. Because it was asking him about which chain he wants to send it on, and basically that's where he got lost. And my book obviously doesn't go into this kind of questions and this kind of details. So suddenly, you kind of realize that all this knowledge which we have, which was acquired for years, which we don't even think about anymore, because if you are sending similar transaction from a centralized exchange to your wallet, you just know, right? You know which one to pick. You just click the right thing and you just do it because, well, you know enough to make sure that these coins don't end up somewhere lost, pretty much. But for a newbie, suddenly you get that question. So you want to send it, let's say maybe it was USDT or something. You want to send it on Ether, on Ethereum, or you want to send it on the Binance chain or something. And then a newbie is lost, right? It's like, which one do I click, right? It's too much knowledge for someone who just started with crypto 3 days ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it helps. It helps to, people first they get into maybe because of the book, and then ask the questions if you still need help. And I'm open. My Twitter is open. My Telegram is open. People can find me, Twitter, Telegram, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. I deliberately put it like public in a way that, well, I don't want to hide, right? So if you read the book and you have the contact details there, whatever way is good for you, then just send a message there, and I'll be happy to help as much as I can.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I also like about, I guess before I say that, is there anything in the book that you felt like people like you didn't see being mentioned in the public discourse that you feel like you had to put out there?
That's a good question. It's hard to say, but I tried to put some context there as well, right? So the reason I put a little bit of a personal story into the book as well, how it all started for me, and also some words of encouragement in the end, was to show people a real person and a real face behind the product which made it possible, right? So anyone can point you to a website or can write let's say a semi-anonymous book of just like, well, very technical or even very simple, but just not mentioning anything about real people, even if these real people means just you, the author. But I think it gives it a human face in a way, saying like, look, I'm just a normal guy who was working all his life in different areas, pretty much trying to survive like everyone else, sometimes on a better level, sometimes on worse, but just grinning ahead. And suddenly I came into this thing called Hex, and it worked, right? So now I'm sharing it with you, the reader, Look, I mean, it worked for me, and I believe it will work very well into the future, and it will even work better for me. But if you're just starting, there is a very big chance it will also work for you. And the proof is that it worked for me, right? And I'm not trying to be like, well, you have to buy it and everything else is a scam for sure. And if you don't buy Hex, you're screwed. I might, to a certain extent believe it, but it's not the message I want to. I didn't want to be too pushy about it. I just wanted to show you, like, look, that's the tool. It works. It's safe because it used to work perfectly for more than 3 years now. If you are actually going to crypto and you're buying something and you want, I wouldn't say guaranteed gains, but a fairly decent gains for sure, definitely much better than Bitcoin and Ethereum in the future, then why not? Why not trying it, right? So speaking about this context and something which I wanted to put there, I thought the security chapter is very important. I focused a lot on security, starting with obviously, wallets and, MetaMask and hardware wallets, and that basically you have to secure investment and forget, having it on a centralized exchange. Well, you can't have Hex on centralized exchange, on most of them at least, but, just to put the mindset there, that put the frame that basically, if you even use centralized exchanges, then you just do it for as short time as possible. Don't keep your funds there, and just move to your wallet. And ending on a physical security as well, being like, well, maybe today you're just putting $1,000 or you're putting $10,000 in, and it doesn't maybe seem like a money worth losing your life over or whatever, or your health, but in the same time, that $1,000 or $10,000 can easily become $1 million or 10 in the next 2 or 3 years. And, maybe you secure it on a ledger, but did you secure your life in a way, right? Or are you just walking around, in a t-shirt, I made $10 million in crypto. I'm exaggerating here, but basically, just pay attention to this, that well, if you are, let's say, rich or crypto rich or wealthy, then you should also look into how you protect yourself and your family in the future. And as I say, maybe you're not rich yet, but maybe it's coming next year or next bull market or something. So better think about this now than don't think about this at all. I also briefly mentioned in the book, which and this is, I think, something which maybe people are not discussing enough. It's kind of the options in life you have when it comes to living anywhere you want in the world. And that also relates to your residencies, tax situation, and so on. So I only gave a little bit of taste of that in the book, just mentioning like, look, if you actually made it, and most of us can make it in the next bull market. If you haven't made it already, then well, maybe you don't have to live wherever you are, or if you do live there, maybe you can actually spend 6 months or whatever amount of time you want in any other country in the world, which you fancy. Or maybe actually you make it so big that you have to think about this because of taxes or something, right? So then you kind of like, well, maybe I come from, wherever US, but there is another option for me. People buy, golden visas to Portugal, or invest in Latvia to get the EU residency. There are people who, invest in Uruguay or Paraguay to get the residency there. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to live there if you don't want to. There are all kinds of ways and options. But I think this is something which we don't discuss enough, because some people just, they never thought they might need it or they might like it in a way. That's what I'm thinking, right? And maybe you never thought about this. It's kind of like, well, maybe you have a job somewhere in the States, you live there, and you're just a good citizen paying your taxes, and that's all fine. But then maybe you make, I don't know, 1 million, 10 million, $20 million, and suddenly it's taxed as crazy. And then maybe you think about this, being like, well, do I really want to give away? I'm not sure what's your tax situation there, guys, but in the States, but I just assume it's not the greatest in comparison to some other option.
You'd be right.
So I mean, yeah, so maybe just something which, you see, this is the difficult part here, because it's kind of like, look, maybe if your portfolio is worth, I don't know, $50,000, you feel like, that's not my problem, doesn't matter. Yeah, but that $50,000 can become 5 million in the next 2 years. And maybe it's actually better if you start thinking about it now. What if? What happens then? How you want to cash out, if you want to cash out. What are you going to do about it, right? Have a plan, or at least do some research, check your options, and there are options out there, from simple ones. I think, like for you guys, the simplest is probably Puerto Rico, to some guys I know who literally bought second citizenship somewhere else, and then they renounce the U.S. citizenship because they don't want it, because of taxes, right? And it's quite a mindset shift here, because there's a lot of people out there who are like, oh, I'm proud of whatever country I am a citizen of, and I love my country, and I can't imagine, not being a citizen anymore. And there is the whole bunch of other people who are like feeling like they are more of a global citizen, and passport is just a tool. It's sort of like, well, today you are a citizen of, I don't know, Germany, and tomorrow you're a citizen of some Caribbean island, or Uruguay or something. And as long as it works, and as long as you can live wherever you want, and you pay good taxes, or you don't pay them at all, and you can still travel freely, why would it matter? Where you're a citizen. And some people have different situation. Of course, they have a family, they want to stay in wherever they are, either France or United States, doesn't matter, and that's fine as well. But there are options out there, and I think this is an interesting subject to dive in when people have time, and try to research where what they would do if good things happen to them.
Yeah, that's a very important thing. And I always say, like, I can't wait till those are my problems. I have so much money. I got to know where to go to pay the best taxes. That is interesting that you've like been all over the world. I guess if is there anything, because a lot of times passed since you wrote the book, is there anything, seeing how things are unfolding now, that you would want to put in that you didn't put in?
Well, when it comes to the book, that's the difficult part. That's the whole process from when you begin to write to the moment it's on the market. It's, if you are fast, it's months, and if you're not, it can be well over a year. And books are getting outdated very quickly in a way, right? So there must be, especially books about technology, or in that case, blockchain and crypto. Whatever I write today might not be valid next week, so this is a risk for a book, and it's very difficult to have it updated. It's not difficult. I could be doing different versions every month, just adding and changing, but then you pretty much, the writing of it will not be, adding something will not be so difficult in terms of writing. But then it's all the technical process, right? I should have that edited, so I have to pay someone to do that. Then I need to have the whole book reformatted again, and republished, and so on. So that will be, well, I don't know, maybe it will be a few $100 every single time I would like to make a change into the book. So what I tried is to be specific enough so the book is useful, but also generic enough so it doesn't get too old too quickly, right? So as we stand today, I think I could stand by everything I wrote in the book. So everything should be valid, as I said, valid enough for anyone who tries to go into the system and understand how it works, that it will actually help the person. And all these updates and news which we had, obviously, from Richard, especially since the beginning of the year, they are very useful. I like them very much, but they're also not the book material, right? So something would have changed. The interesting thing here about this, because I try to keep the book as simple as possible. So, for example, from the very beginning, I was writing that Pulsechain is pretty much a fork of Ethereum, and I didn't go into these details when there was a lot of talk that maybe we will actually fork the fork of Ethereum, right? I don't even remember which chain was it we were supposed to fork by then, and then Richard changed back that it's actually going to be a fork of Ethereum 2.0. Because I just try to keep it simple for a reader who doesn't understand it. So, if I try to explain that, we have this thing called Ethereum, but then we have a number of forks already, and we are going to fork the fork, I would lose the target audience for sure. They're like, what the hell are you talking? And, as far as if we call it I don't know, a simple beginner investment guide to hex, Pulsechain, Pulsex, do you really need to know it? As a person who is just starting, do you need to know every single detail about every single technical detail about what are we talking about? I think you just need to have general overview, what it is, how it works, why it works, and why it's so great, right? And if something there is not super accurate, well, I didn't write it for a software developer or someone who just scrutinize every single sentence, being like, oh, you know what, that's actually not accurate. As long as it's like factually correct, more or less, to the degree that you understand what's going on and you will not make a critical mistake. I think that's good enough for now. So for now, I wouldn't add or change anything. I think the big consideration would come when Pulsechain and Pulsex is actually live, right? Because I wrote it basically based on the testnet. Obviously, I don't expect it to be very, very different. Interface might be changed, and you have some screenshots in the book from the testnet showing how Pulsex looks like, how the other interfaces look like. This might look differently when we actually launch, but I also think that, well, you should still be able to follow, right? You'll be like, well, if you open the page I told you to open and suddenly it looks differently, but how different let's say the main Pulsex interface can be, maybe it will be different color, maybe it will be, the swapping feature will be in a different place, but if you have half a brain and you can follow the instructions, you will figure it out. You will find it like, okay, it looks different now, but I know which button to click, and that's important. And if it happens that it's like, major changes happened, which are actually important from the point of view of future investors, I would definitely consider like doing version 2 and pretty much, rewriting, especially
and then V2B.
I wait until the mainnet, right? And then, obviously there will be updates in the future. Yeah, but it's like imagine writing a book about Ethereum right now, and you write one, and let's say you start now and you finish it, let's say by the end of the year. It will be whatever it is with whatever updates they have, but the next year or the next 3 years, maybe they will have more updates, right? And so you can either keep revising that book every year, let's say, or every 2 years, or you just let it be, depending what you wrote and how important it is to actually change it and update it. Or maybe point people to a website and just do updates on the blog or something like, well, this changed, guys, and if you keep following me for whatever reason, because you read the book, you like it, there is actually a blog on my website where for now I publish just excerpts from the book. I just go like one by one, so if someone doesn't want to buy a book for any reason, they can just follow the whole content, and I don't know, in the next 10 or 20 or 12 weeks, everything should be out there. I still think it's easier to read the book than just click every single entry on the blog. But then once I run out of content there and the book is finished in terms of being published on the website, then I will be free to do some updates, right? So maybe I could be like, okay, look, Pulsechain is live, and now, okay, this changed and this changed in comparison to the book, or this is how you do it now. And if someone read a book and is lost and can't really find it, then if I have I don't know, maybe an extensive article about what changed or how to do things differently, then if someone actually asks me a question, maybe I can just point to something I wrote after the book. But we'll see, we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing I love about the book is that it does like give a certain legitimacy to the ecosystem, because especially among older people, they're more comfortable and they grew up reading physical books, and being that there's someone out there that actually wrote a book about it, it does give it some legitimacy. And older people are generally have a lot more money than younger people. I guess has your onboarding been more successful post writing the book, and especially with like the older demographic? Tell us about that, maybe.
Yeah, I guess it was. It is. It's pretty much. It's getting much easier. I must say I kind of gained a lot of, if you could call it, personal legitimacy here. So it's sort of like, when I had conversations before, with various people and various demographics. Obviously, people are very skeptical for start, right? You mention crypto, and maybe they know it, maybe they don't, and if they know it, sometimes they already invested in something else, and they just look at you like, oh yeah, another guy who invested in crypto, right? And then then I mention hacks, and let's say they never heard about this, so if they actually know crypto a little bit, there is this immediate skepticism being like, hey, but what it is, and why this and not the other, because I invested in, and I'm like, man, never mind, here's my book, here's my website, right? And then it changes the conversation. It's kind of like, you're not just one random guy who opened an account on exchange and bought some random stuff because you think you found your lottery ticket, right? So that helps a lot, because then people start to listen. It's like, wait, maybe they don't agree with me. That's fine. I don't mind. But they feel that if I can call it like this, they can see you're a serious player in a way, right? It's kind of like, look, you wrote a book, you must know something. That's probably setting this kind of frame, and then they listen.
Credibility.
So it helps, right? And I'm happily giving. Yeah, pretty much. So I think that changes a lot, and that helps a lot, and it makes my life easier as well, because when we actually randomly start a conversation with people, and I usually happen to have a copy or two of my book with me, if I'm carrying a bag or something, then I always just have it there. Sometimes and the book is not that expensive, right? So and for me, this is an investment in our onboarding as well. That, well, if I talk to someone and someone's really interested, and I could see like, so how do I find more, and where do I find your book, and I want to really understand it better, then I just I pull out the book from a backpack or a bag, and I'm like, okay, here you go, take it. And even though it's like, what, $20 or something, people are like shocked, being like, well, it's a guy you just met on a coffee 2 hours ago, and you just give them a $20 book. Somehow it feels better than buying someone a $20 drink, right? Because you drink a drink and you don't remember about it, and you give a book, and they kind of like, they take it home, and if they actually read it or not, doesn't matter, but they kind of feel like connected in a way, right? After one drink, it's just like, well, you don't remember the guy's name 3 hours later, so it's like that's the difference, I think, for me.
Yeah, and it's like you're giving them something that could really change their life. I mean, it changed your life, so it could really mean a lot more also in the future as well, like dividends kind of thing. So I guess tell us, so what was like the reception among the community when the book came out? I know it's unbelievable, and I have so much respect for you, the fact that you wrote a book. It's not easy to write. It's not easy because the way things play out in your head, it's not necessarily as easy to articulate it on a piece of paper or even in words, but a piece of paper is a lot more difficult. So how did it feel when you finished, and how was it like when you first brought it to the community?
Okay.
And
yeah, go on.
no, I remember I gave it a shout out when I started the show, because I really meant a lot to me, because I really appreciate how much work goes into writing a book, and I'm like, I had to show this. But yeah, I'm sorry.
You did, yes, I remember that, and what interesting is, I don't know how, but back then I think I didn't follow you back then, because I was just not aware of your existence yet. I think maybe there was a tweet here and there, I saw something, but I never clicked deeper to go to your YouTube channel or something. And then suddenly it just appeared on my timeline. There's like your thumbnail with a book, and I was like, well, what's this about? So then I clicked it, and I saw the shill of a book. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate this. And I was like, hey, one day I have to reach out to this guy. And I started to watch your streams after that. Not all of them, I admit, not that much time, but when I can, then I catch up with some things. Usually listening, because I'm not just going somewhere and instead of listening to the music or something. That's what I usually do. I just put the YouTube stream, put my earphones on, and basically just walk 3 hours and catching up with whoever I want to catch up with that day, right? So that's how I get to know you. How does it feel about the book? The process is exhausting, and usually you start, in my case at least, it starts with excitement, and you really want to do it. Then it's a lot of writing and a lot of editing and back and forth, and just trying to understand which sentence has to go in and which sentence has to go out, so it makes sense. and it's not an easy job as well, because people tend to fall in love with the words they've written, and they just kind of like, well, I really like this, but then is it really needed? Is it necessary? Is it too much details? Is it not enough details? You have to make these decisions depending on who is the audience, right? And because I pretty much manage the whole process myself, which means I wrote the book. Then initially I wrote the book in Polish because it's always easier. Then I got it edited by a Polish editor to make it sound in Polish, at least, to make it sound perfectly. Then I got a translator who translated that in English, a professional translation company, and then I handed it over to an English native speaker to pretty much read it and correct after the translation company, right? Because obviously the translator is Polish as well, with fluent English for sure, and this is a professional translator, but still he's not a native speaker, so some things he will write differently than what the native speaker would normally write. And I wanted to make it as easy read for especially native speakers as possible, right? I didn't want people to just to pick up on things, being like, oh, this is like, I don't know, wrong grammar or a wrong tense you used or whatever. It's just like, well, it still might have happened in some places, because, well, even native speaker can write something weird, especially if he doesn't know crypto or something. But that was the whole effort, right? And then I put then I get the cover designer contracted to give a few ideas and see how it plays out with the cover. And then I had another person putting it all together in the right format for print and for the ebook version. And then I got it published. So the whole thing took a year, right? Wow. So it was quite fast paced, I'd say.
And how many hours a day? Longer. How many hours a day were you writing?
Well, it depended, like sometimes it was 2 hours because I just felt like I don't have anything to say. And sometimes it was like 4, 6, 7, and it was just an exhausting day. All in all, when you exclude all the pictures from the book, that's only about 100 pages. So it doesn't seem that many. But the thing here is like that, many times I just wrote like the whole chapter or 2 or 3. And then I got back to the previous one, and I just deleted everything. And I was just like,
oh my gosh,
that doesn't work. Let's just restart it. Let's rewrite it a different way. So in the end, in a book you have 100 pages, but before it was 100 pages, I might have written about 500 or so, and then correct, edit, delete, write again, and so on. That's why I'm saying 4, 6 hours sometimes, because to write 100 pages. Like without thinking about this, that probably takes you a week and you're done, so that's fine. It's not that much. But if you really have to make sure that there's a logical flow there, and one chapter goes into another, and one sentence goes into another, and paragraphs make sense one after another, then that's the whole other thing, right? So the feeling, I was exhausted by the time it was getting published. It was I think it was a relief when it was published, that it's kind of done. The project is done in a way. And then, I just had to rest a few days and start the marketing pretty much, and start to get the word out. That's when I start to reach out to the first YouTubers. I thought that this is probably the best channel to spread the word out, right? I didn't really believe that, putting, Google ads, if they even allow it, or Amazon ads or whatever, hey, click here if you want a crypto book. I think it's a waste of money. So it's better to put an effort into trying to reach out and talk to people and spread the word out than randomly spending hundreds or thousands of dollars hoping that people will click, especially in the bear market, right? So I'm sure and all our viewers here know, almost no one cares about crypto in the bear market, right? So it is a difficult sell right now, and I knew it's going to be this way as long as the bear market is here. But I also thought it's important to get the book out before the bull market, right? Because there's a lot of noise in the bull market as well. There's sort of a silence in the bear market. Everyone is depressed, or most of the people who don't understand it. People who are not into crypto, they don't care because they only see the prices being down, and 60, 70, 80% down from whatever they saw 2 years ago. So why would they, invest any time or money into learning about crypto right now? Doesn't sound like a good idea. But then when we get back and when it all starts to pump again, hopefully this year, maybe next year, the book is going to be there, right? And then my idea is also to actually increase the marketing efforts then, but already have a product on the market which had a fairly good reception, had some good reviews there, and just being like, look, now prices are going up. You want to invest, you don't know how. This is one of the ways of learning about it, right? So that's my plan here.
Yeah, well said. And yeah, it's good to get the infrastructure in place because once the bull market comes around, I think the demand's going to go up. Like the demand for crypto, the demand for the books about crypto are definitely going to go up. And we have Constantine said, I've got 4 copies of the book so I could share with my family and friends. Love the book. What do you think about that?
Respect. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I always wanted, right? That's what I thought people do. Like I do try to market it both to our community and outside, especially for this reason, right? Because I know a lot of you guys have family and friends and what's not who might be asking or might show some interest. But it's tiring, right? I mean, I'm sure Konstantin experienced that as well. Like, how many times you can explain the same thing over and over again to everyone you meet, and they still don't do anything about it, right? So, I mean, will the book change their minds? Maybe, then it's a win for you, then it's a win for me, and I think win for them in the longer time perspective. But I mean, we can bring them the tools, but they have to use them themselves, right? So, and I kind of find it, that because I consider book to be written in a very simple way, and I kind of find that there's no more excuses, like if you're actually genuinely interested to learn, and reading is the way you prefer to do it. If you read the book and you still didn't do anything, then it's on you. I mean, like there's not much else I can do or you can do. I think your streams and everyone's other streams and efforts are kind of the same. You can show them the way, but you cannot hold their hand and force them to send the money in, right? It's just like, well, I'm showing you what's working. Take it or cry later, because there will be a lot of crying. I believe there will be a lot of crying. Now a lot of people are crying because, well, not sure if it's still a bear market or not. I mean, I feel quite good about what Hex did this year in terms of prices so far. But in the end, it's like, well, they might ridicule some of us now. They might laugh. They might be sad or whatever, and ask if we are okay. And still, they will not do anything. And then in a year or 2 or 3, when we are on top of the mountain again, the feelings are going to be different, and it's going to be like, I wished I listened to that guy in 2023, or I read that book in 2023. And it's like, well, yeah, but you didn't, or you did and you didn't do anything, right? So, I mean, that's just life, yeah. And so we can bring the tools to the people, but they have to decide that they want to use them.
Yeah, the saying in America is you could lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
That's exactly. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and BitFinesse says, please send a copy to BitBoy. He still doesn't get it. Oh, BitFinesse, he gets it. Trust me. Did you see the Artie crypto video, Mark?
Not sure, no.
Oh my! You want me to show you the Artie crypto video where BitBoy said?
Go for it.
Somebody said, well, okay, let's do that, and then we're gonna.
You have it, yeah. We have it somewhere.
Because this is like how crazy. I've actually prepared tabs also for my next stream. Let me unshare this, and I'm gonna reshare because to share audio. But basically, a lot of these influencers are really talking about Hex. Ivan on Text talking about it constantly. Carl the Moon just tweeted. Did you see his tweet today?
No, haven't seen. No.
Oh my gosh, you gotta. Oh, we could show you some over.
Sure,
okay,
please.
Let's start with so you had Carl the Moon. I could just go to my Twitter. The Moon Carl. You know the Moon Carl?
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm following right now, but I saw a lot of his tweets in the past. Yeah.
He's the guy that tells you to go leverage trading.
Oh yeah.
Well, look at this. 8 hours ago.
Oh wow.
And then
Is he serious or is he trolling though?
I don't know, but he's a confirmed sacrificer for Pulsechain.
Okay.
Then we got Ivan on tech. Ivan on tech. You know he's been all over it lately.
Yeah. From Ivan, I'm aware. Yeah. Exactly.
So I really think, thanks to like your work, like Hex taking out massive resistance right now. Big Cheds, should we respect the pump? So we tagged someone else who has 303,000 followers, some like trader guy, and that guy actually responded. It's really crazy what's happening. Like it's obviously emerging as the next big thing, and I think a lot of it is thanks to your work. But this is crypto Artie. So Artie crypto Artie. I'm following him, so. There we go. So BitBoy on his streams, and Bitfinesse talked about it, is like he refuses to say, like, he says like the SEC thing, he's neutral, whatever. But check out this video, Mark.
Biggest airdrop, Pulsechain, and the amazing ecosystem that Richard Hart, my boy, founded.
It's funny, we got somebody that said every single one. Did y'all plant plants everywhere?
We're seated nice and well.
I like Richard. You guys know this. I do like Richard personally. I've always said this, and I will continue to say it. Like, I just don't really understand the way that Hex works and operates, and it continues to defy logic. What I will tell you is this:
3 years uptime, 100%, no admin keys, pure DeFi.
It's true. I mean, all the stuff you're saying is correct. I guess the question you get into is, you know the questions. Where did the ETH go? Who's got the ETH? What's he using? Now he was buying Bitcoin at 50 cents, so he's got a lot of money. So I'm not saying I have the answer to these questions, but these are the questions people ask about it. People putting money in, got a new project, or putting money in a new project. There's a lot of things about it that if it wasn't Richard Hart and I didn't tend to like him, I would probably call it Ponzi and be very against it. It's got a lot of hallmarks.
Are you a Hexagon?
What's that?
Are you a Hexagon?
Well, here's what I'll tell you guys. What I'll tell you is, we have somebody recording. Can you take it down? Is this? I can't.
That's another Hexagon of mine.
Look, I will say this. This is what I will say. I will say there are some coins that we are going to be adding to our portfolio.
There you go.
That I never thought we would add to our portfolio.
All right.
And that doesn't mean that we're going to get in depth and we're going to support those coins from a content perspective, but it does mean when we get back to doing portfolio, because I don't know if y'all know, like almost all our altcoins are on sale.
Okay, what's your immediate reaction to that? Are you a Hexagon? We're adding coins to our portfolio that we never thought we'd add to our portfolio. This is like the biggest thing in crypto.
I think he is, and I think he added them long before. I don't think, because we've seen all this interviews before, and he for quite a while he was quite optimistic about Hex and Richard in general. Here I think he's going a little bit on the defensive here, right? So he doesn't really want to admit it, but
he basically admitted it.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, but he says about. Well, he mentioned he's thinking about adding something to the portfolio, and I think it's been there for a long time. I mean, it's hard for me to comprehend that after all these chats in private and public with Richard, and probably spending some time trying to understand Hex, at least to a certain degree, that it's right now when we are at almost 8 cents or when we were at 6 cents or wherever that video was made, that right now he's thinking for the first time that maybe he's adding. I don't buy it at all, you know. Also, what caught my attention, and that's quite interesting, that he says like, okay, maybe let's say 100% sure we're talking about hex here. Let's say he's adding it right now, okay, but maybe we will not be talking about it in terms of content. It's like, well, when they add it, they will talk. I think it just doesn't make any sense for me that they will, you know, build a significant position, let's say in Hex or even in Pulsechain and Pulsex, and then they will just not talk about this because what? I mean, give me a reason why not to, you know. So you will be talking about
Well, I give you
Bitcoin
a
and
reason
Ethereum.
Right
Yeah. Okay.
right here.
Okay. Let's see what plays out better, right? So well, I don't know. I mean, these things can change, right? Sponsorships are also not for life, and I don't know. I mean, like, well, hard to say, but okay, let's say a sponsor gives you, I don't know, gives you $1 million, and you see a potential of making 10 million on your investment in X. You can help your potential $10 million investment, or just take a money from a sponsor. Which one do you do? You know, like. I don't know. I mean, I'd consider all options. I'd say I'd be like, well, I'm not saying 100%, you know, that's going to happen, but I mean, okay, don't be surprised that, you know, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but 6 months from now, or whenever Pulsechain Pulsex launches, that we might see some content, even including Hex, coming out of them, simply because they already have the position they're happy with, and they want to support it, and they want to make it bigger than it is. And, you know, every influencer of this size, or obviously, I mean, is he the biggest right now? Is he?
I think Coin Bureau and Coin Bureau is the biggest. I think he's second biggest.
Okay. So, I mean, him and a lot of other big influencers or investors at the same time, I mean, they can move these things. They can move everything, right? Well, maybe not everything, but basically, well, you know, if he jumps on X with, I don't know, 2 others from the top 5 or top 10, that brings us somewhere else as well, you know, simply because, you know, people listen to him. Doesn't matter if he was right or wrong before, people just follow and listen to a lot of his advice and to advice of other people. So, yeah. But the whole picture from what you are saying, you're showing these tweets, and I saw some others on my own, and these maybe, and all these videos, it clearly shows that, you know, the influencers have been warming up for quite a while to what we are doing. So I think we've been through the worst. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a big reason why it's not simply sponsors. I think their audience has a bad outlook on him, and they don't want to lose their audience, right? They could lose their core audience. So I think what they're doing right now is they're kind of testing to see if they get a backlash. And if like their audience doesn't, you know, get angry, you know, they'll push it a little further. And I think until they feel 100% comfortable going all in, because I think regardless, I think it will emerge as, you know, ubiquitous with crypto. I think Hex will be something that has to be talked about. And if these influencers don't talk about it, then they'll be replaced by other influencers who will talk about it, because that is the thing people want to hear. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, I think so. I don't remember who it was, unfortunately, because I usually scroll Twitter very quickly, but I saw quite an interesting thread, I think yesterday, which was kind of a very logical breakdown of how Pulsechain and everything related to it is going to take over the crypto world. And you know, and I must say, look, first of all, I would like it to happen. Second of all, I believe it might happen. And third of all, if it actually happens, then I think most of these influencers will not have any other choice. It's just like, well, you know, if we are talking about the next best thing after Ethereum and maybe actually way better, because maybe Ethereum will not catch up with all their issues, and the Pulsechain is here to save us all, let's say, then I mean, how can you be top 1, top 2, top 3 influencers and just decide, you know what, yeah, that's not my thing. It's just like, I mean, how many influencers are out there today saying that, you know, they're only into Bitcoin, or maybe they are only to all the other altcoins, but not Ethereum, and they will just refuse to talk about it, how big they can get, or how relevant can they remain, you know, by ignoring the major player or the best player in the future. You know? Now it's kind of like, well, you know, they could bet on Richard and his product, or maybe they won't. But when it already happened, I mean, you don't have a choice. If you want to stay relevant in the game, you would have to say like, yeah, actually I always liked Richard, even if it was not true. You have to jump on board, because otherwise, you will be sent to oblivion. No one
Yeah,
really
it's like
cares,
if you delist Bitcoin as an exchange, like you're not going to be relevant exchange. It's like it's going to be like that with Hex, I think, with exchanges and influencers. I guess next up we have what is the best way to buy the book? And let me just bring out the window. The one I put up was, I have links in the description. I have your link tree in the description. You guys check out the link tree. Follow Mark on everything in the link tree, and also this is I have it here on secondcryptorevolution.com. You have a buy now thing. You also have it on Amazon. This is a beautiful website, by the way. So tell us about the best way to buy the book.
Yeah, I think when you go to it's easy to remember, right? When you go to the website, which is secondcryptorevolution.com, as you can see here, and you go to the book section, and then you go to buy now, it will take you directly to the Amazon page where you can buy it. Alternatively, if you want, Furu, I just send you in a private chat the link directly. Oh, you actually have it, the link to Amazon, right? So I don't know if you want to post it in the chat.
I'm going to
so
post
this is the shortest link. Yeah. So whoever clicks there, they just go directly to Amazon. And if you have an account there in any country where Amazon delivers, then it will just take you to your respective country store, let's call it like this, and then whether you're in France or US or Australia, it will just take you to the right place, and you can get a copy of the book.
Absolutely. And I urge everyone to please get a copy, either for yourself or for your loved ones. I mean, sometimes a book is the best way to communicate things, is the best way to communicate things to the public. And it's you might, change their life. You might make a huge difference to these people. And if you don't get them the book, then they might be upset at you. Like, how come you didn't tell me about that? And what are you going to say, right? You didn't get them the book. And it's also good for reading for yourself. I'm sure there are a lot of things that you could derive from there, a lot of great ways to onboard people. The information that you get from the book, can really help make a difference in onboarding. And it supports Mark, and it's important to support people that do meaningful work. Because if we don't support them, then they're not going to do meaningful work, okay? Including yours truly. We got the Patreon in the description also, but it is really important for that as well. But what are your thoughts on everything I just said?
Well, absolutely, I agree with you, right? I mean, guys, everything helps, right? You have to watch the YouTube streams, you have to like them, and you have to share them with people which you find interesting knowledge in them. I think it's also important, as far as the streams are concerned, to do not overload the people you share it with information which is not easy, right? So, I mean, for example, sharing links to full streams of Furu to people who don't know anything about crypto, don't count that anyone is going to sit and watch 5 of them 2 hours each. I'd focus on either clip it yourself or find the clippings, right? To be like, okay, this is important, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And then when they really get interested in something and start asking you questions, you could, you could give them some more meat, as I say it. When it comes to the books, for me, this is a non-profit project, right? I mean, yes, there is a price there, and I'm not giving it away for free.
Well, you actually are today.
Yeah, I am a few copies, right? But basically, I think by now I still haven't covered even the cost of production of the book, and that's fine, because I didn't expect to make money on it. I mean, like, I'm sure that eventually it will sell enough copy to at least cover the cost of production, and if it's not, then that's fine, because as I mentioned before, I consider this my contribution to the community, and to give the tools to people who need them, to give this kind of tool, right? Because we have a lot of tools, especially the good YouTube channels, right, and good streamers. But when it comes to books, I think we have 3. So mine is the 3rd one, right? There was the first one about hex. I don't remember the title, unfortunately. Then there was the hex phenomenon, I think, and it was mostly about hex, mentioning a little bit about Pulsechain and Pulsex. And my approach was to just, obviously mostly about hex because it's a working product, but also with a significant space dedicated to Pulsechain and Pulsex because we were closer to launch when I was writing than Matt was when he was writing his book. So obviously I could go into more details than he did. So yeah, I mean, when you're actually buying the book, first of all, I think you're helping me to cover the cost of production. But what's more important, I think you can change someone's life, and trust me that that's possible. Like Furu said, I can give you an interesting example. The good friend who actually brought my attention to Richard and to Hex. We met first time, I think, about 10 years ago, maybe, or 8, something like that. You know what happened? I wrote a book about Thailand. I wrote a book, it was a sort of a travel book describing my 2 years experience of living in Thailand. I got it published, I think, 2011 or 2012. He read the book. He liked it so much that he pretty much packed his bags and moved to Thailand as well. And that's the example of what I'm trying to show you, right? Being like, the guy never considered living anywhere outside of Poland. He traveled, he was a very well-traveled guy, but he just lived his life in Poland, and it's not like he was unhappy or happy, doesn't matter, it was just normal. But then he read the book, he got inspired, and he made a move, and he moved. This book, Second Crypto Revolution, is something completely different, but imagine the feeling that you give it to someone actually reads it, and by extension listens to you and your advice, and does very well on it. They will be grateful to you. And that's why I wrote this book pretty much, and for me, I didn't really get it yet, but what I'm expecting, what I will actually get from the book, and as soon as it's widely distributed, as soon as a lot of people get their hands on it, what I'm actually expecting is exactly this. I'm expecting people can read it now, or they read it already. Hopefully they took some action. And 2 or 3 years from now, maybe they will reach out to me, like that other friend of mine reached out. Well, now a friend, back then a stranger, saying like, look, man, I read your book 2 years ago, and, it made me financially free. Thank you, and, we can take it from there. Maybe we stay in touch. Maybe we also become friends, maybe whatever, but that's my aim. That's my goal here, to change people's lives. And, if it's just one person, then I'm already happy. But if it's 10 or 100 or 1,000 people, I'm even more happy, right? So in the end, that's the reason why we are going to do a giveaway with Furu here, and I'm giving away the books regularly. That's why I'm handing it on sometimes to almost strangers on the street when we just have an hour or 2 hours chat. Because, well, in the end, I don't know who is going to buy it, right? It's just like some people will just ignore it. Some people will be like, well, I'm all in, I want it, right? And then hopefully I changed their life, and as such, even though I didn't make money on the book, then I won in a way, right? This is my target here. This is my goal, not the few hundred or few $1,000s you can make from the book, or even if it's 20 or 30,000. If you really sell well, yeah, that's all great, but that's not the goal here. That's not the purpose.
Oh, it's really unbelievable, and it's unbelievable that you put your money out there, and yeah, it's no easy thing, but it really does give legitimacy, because I think there is something very special about a book. It's academic. It's more. It's one thing to be streaming about it, but streaming is easy. I mean, it's in comparison to writing a book. I think a book makes it something that it makes it a lot more serious. I think if you hand someone a book, like there's a book written on this, they'll take it a lot more seriously than, for example, people streaming, because people stream about every crypto, but how many cryptos have books written about them? So I think it's a very important thing that you did. And I think it is going to help a lot of people. And I think it already has helped a lot of people. And I think hopefully it'll bring back dividends to yourself as well, even though it wasn't the purpose. I think as this community builds, I think more and more people are going to adopt the book as well. So without further ado, how are we going to do this giveaway? I was thinking maybe we do, people pick a number or something. How have you done it in the past? Mark was generous enough to give away 3 books tonight to the people in the chat. So how are we going to do this?
Yeah, I guess let's keep it simple. Let's make it random. How many people do we have in the chat right now?
We have 47 people watching on YouTube.
47. Okay, so let's do maybe pick a random number between 1 to 100, and whoever is the closest gets the first book, second and third.
So okay,
does it work for you, or?
Okay, yeah.
Because if we do 1 to 10, then we will have a lot of the same answers, right? Or let's do 1 to 1,000 to make sure that there's not the same answer, so we don't have to decide. What do you think?
Up to you, man. Your book.
Okay, all right. Okay, guys, let's do a random number from 1 to 1,000.
1 to 1,000.
Just to make sure you don't get the same answers, right? And Furu, I think we because you could probably share a screen, right? I mean, we could do it on Google or somewhere. If you put like random number between 1 to 1,000, Google will just give you the answer. So it's not us picking the number, right? It's someone else. It's a machine.
We should. You want me to ask Google to pick a number between 1 and 1,000? Let me just say, Rainmaker has special abilities. He's I don't know if you saw his stream, but he might be on it. Wait, so you could just put it in the private chat. How about that? Put your number.
Okay. Okay, but I will still use Google to pick one because I don't want to. Because I'm looking at our chat, I don't want to put the person I know.
Okay.
Just in case. Okay. So let's get the first one. Okay. All right. So I'm sending you on a private chat the first number.
Okay.
So should we do the first one first, and then we or you want all three?
Immediately. So 3 closest you want, or we could do three different ones.
Okay, maybe let's do the 3 closest to the
3 closest.
One, right? So
okay, let's give everyone. We'll give
just make sure. Yeah.
20 more seconds. Put your number down if you haven't put it in. All right, it looks like everyone's put their number in. Okay, so I announced the number. The number is 455. Crypto Vision actually had 456, so he's definitely a winner. Crypto Vision.
So we have one. So I actually have the book here, and so this country focus it in the camera. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, maybe. Okay.
Oh, there we go. That's a nice looking book. So 450. So 455. Well, the number was 455. So we got Crypto Vision. And then
what else do we have?
I think 369 would be the next one, right?
Do we have 369 here? Yeah, it's 100. Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, it's around 100 away, right? So
yeah. It's less than 100, and I think John Doe Crypto is 100 away. So I think those are the 3 winners, right?
Yeah. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yeah. So John Doe Crypto Vision, and Billy Mack.
Yeah.
So they're going to DM you on Twitter. How's this going to work? Or email you?
I think the email would be the best. So then I have everything in one place. And sometimes if I don't follow someone, that they cannot send me a DM and so on. So in the private chat, I sent you my email address, and
put it in the public chat.
You can put, yeah, it's okay. So you guys can just email me and say that that you want the book. And I will need your name, I will need your address, and I will need your phone number to make sure that it's delivered. So I think that will be enough. yeah, so that's it. Just email me with your delivery name or full name, whatever you want to use, just to make sure you get it. Phone number has to be there, because when I make an order on Amazon, it asks for a phone number, probably for a courier or a postman or whatever, and obviously address, the full address with postal code and so on, to make sure it just gets into the right hands. So send me an email to my email, the one which we shared, and as soon as I get it, I'll make that order, and I think within a week or two you should get it. Yeah, that's usually the process, because this is a print on demand service in Amazon, so it's not it's not in stock like tomorrow, but in a few days they should have it. So usually it's not very long wait.
All right. And Crypto Vision says, thanks so much. John Doe Crypto says, stoked. Haha. I never won anything ever. Me too. And
Well done.
Billy Max says, Hex Squid picked the same number. Did we miss it?
Yeah.
Oh, Hex Squid 369. What do we do about this?
No, we send another book then.
Congratulations. Wow, Hex Squid. I'm sorry about that. I didn't see. I'm very sorry. But congratulations.
Same applies to you. Yeah, just please send an email with the information.
All right. Okay. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure having you on, and I hope you could come back and we could talk about current events and things like that, just as a regular on the show. You're always welcome on the show, Mark. To close out, is there any social media you wanted to plug, or your website and things like that you haven't yet?
All right. I mean, first of all, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate your time. It was really nice talking to you after that chill you did, and I just followed you silently. And so I'm glad it worked out, guys. So if you want to follow me, then I think Twitter is the best. It's my handle is Mark Wilde _369. Which obviously is the number some of you picked today. You can find me on Instagram as well, Mark Wilde Official. And I think this is a good start. Yeah, I have a few others, but I mean, if you go to my Twitter page, there's all my links page there. So if you have some other social media you want to connect on, you have all my links, including Facebook, LinkedIn, and others. So just feel free to reach out. I'm happy to connect and be in touch.
All right, awesome. And yeah, I just linked it in the chat. I also linked all your links. I linked the link tree. Well, I guess all my links in the description as well for you guys to go check out. So make sure you go follow Mark Wilde everywhere, and you go to obviously the website secondcryptorevolution.com. Mark, obviously, thank you again. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Well, closing thoughts. I mean, we are still here, right? The prices are getting better, but they are still not where we all want them to be. And I think to all of you who are already in Hex and perhaps sacrificed for Pulsechain and PulseX, my closing thought would be, guys, patience is the name of a game. Okay, so if you are still here with us and you went into the system, I don't know, this year, last year, or 2 years ago, it actually doesn't matter. Life-changing wealth is definitely possible. I never thought I'm going to be able to retire at the age of 40, even though I'm planning to do things, and I still do things. It's just different feeling than having to go to work every day, and it's a different feeling when you work on your own projects, whatever they are and whatever you want to do. So yeah, patience, and I think we are getting there. And whether the huge pumps we all expect and hope for and believe will start happening this year or next year, when you look 5 years back or 10 years back, it wouldn't matter if you made it in 2023 or 2024. From the perspective of 2030, it will not matter anymore. Just stay patient, keep hope up, and keep learning. What are you going to do when that actually happens? Keep learning, keep getting prepared. Maybe you are not financially free yet. Start planning it. What are you going going to do when you are, so how are you going to manage your finances, your personal life, your taxes, your life, your everything, right? And I mean, it's kind of like part of dreaming, I would say. You can be like, well, but that's fine, because it's coming. I'm sure it's coming for many of us, if not most of us, maybe for all of us, if we do enough access on any of the free products or all of them. So yeah, I mean, stay here and stay focused. I think we are closer than farther away now.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And thank you so much, Mark. For everyone, I will see you tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And until then, have a great rest of your evening.